Bible prophecy is active and unfolding daily. Zechariah 12, Isaiah 17, Ezekiel 38. Here is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. From the Washington Post, the Islamic Hamas movement, which rules the Gaza Strip, is facing its worst crisis in years as it confronts a severe cash shortage, a loss of regional allies, and no obvious way to ease a blockade that is crippling local living conditions and stoking popular discontent. As it wrestles with this predicament, Hamas is trying to turn up the pressure on Israel by encouraging weekly mass protests along the Gaza border fence. But as the Israeli-Arab death toll in the protests has mounted with each passing week, so has public dismay with the militant group. Some Gazans have complained bitterly that the Hamas-backed protests have produced so many deaths and that living conditions ultimately have not improved. The decline of Hamas's power has marked a stunning turn of fortunes for a movement once seen as an irresistible force in Gaza. Turning to my personal thoughts, get ready. If you've been joining us in our live stream fellowships these past 2 Thursdays, you may recall that 2 Thursdays ago we prayed for Daniel, who was at his mother's side, waiting for her to leave this earth. And last Thursday we prayed for Daniel and his mom. What you may not know, my friends, is that Daniel's mom left us about 30 minutes after our live stream fellowship this past Thursday and is now in paradise. Praise Elohim. And speaking of our live stream fellowship, this Thursday I'll be broadcasting in stealth mode. That means I'll be going live around midnight Thursday night, Eastern Time, instead of the usual 7 p.m., and caregiver will be sound asleep. She won't be joining us. But if you have any questions for me, please post them in the comments section beneath today's newscast, and I'll answer them for you this Thursday, late night. And considering what I'm about to deliver to you, you may have some questions, and I'm happy to hear them. If you have not seriously watched last Thursday's live stream video, as well as last Saturday's Walking in the Word video, I have links for you below. You will want to check them out. And here's why. I did something. Actually, the Ruach did it. I wasn't planning it. Although it certainly makes a lot of sense to me for this to come out and to stir up the pot, the proverbial pot, as they say. Please pay very close attention when you check out last Saturday's Walk in the Word or last Thursday's live stream. Pay very close attention to any statements I make that may disturb you. If I do, listen to them more than once and ask yourself to be clear and honest about what it is that disturbs you about what I'm saying. There are those of you who understand exactly what I was getting at, my friends. Mishpacha, Chavarim. And of course, you've applauded my words. recognizing them as statements of absolute truth and nothing less. But I was sure there would be many who would not do that, and I was right. I'm still waiting for the full force to hit the fan. We'll see how things ensue, but I knew I was going to stir up a bee's nest, and it didn't take long at all for someone to do exactly what I've been expecting many to do after watching, knowing that they would not pay full attention to my words and come against me for something that they misunderstood. What is Alan talking about? On Sunday, one such person attempted to correct me without even having the wherewithal to quote me properly when she told me she thought I was speaking a terrible untruth. Also, I'm sure she doesn't know that she is not well versed enough in the word to know that a woman who tries to teach or instruct a man is operating outside of Elohim's will. Nonetheless, she started by falsely quoting me regarding presenting the Father's word on the web, saying that I said I am, quote, the only one doing it right. But I never, at any time, in either video, said such a thing. Please note, my friends, many people have a great tendency to express huge errors in their understanding when a new concept is being presented which threatens their old beliefs, and such people reveal an inability to pay attention to what someone like me is truly saying. When I announce things like, we're not saved by grace through faith, people freak out when I say that because their entire life they've been told from their personal pastors, they've heard it on TV, they've heard it on radio, it's been everywhere. Everyone says we are saved by grace through faith. And people they latch on to things like that in the interest of something I am always talking about. They want to own salvation. So it's like, okay, I'm saved by grace. That comes through faith. I got that. I understand it now. I just have to go get it. But I announce that we are not saved by grace through faith. And such a bold and unfamiliar statement truly stirs the flesh, causing some to become so agitated that they hear things that were never spoken, and strangely enough, they will usually refuse to go back to double check the truth of what was said. Ever. They get so angry that they don't want to lose the hatred. Now, that's an extreme case. Not everybody does that, but many come into various levels of that. And then, and we've seen this before, my friends, they start lying to others about what was said, and they simply refuse to love the truth. It's a very common thing for those who are in the flesh to make assumptions that are false and to spread lies. Please note that what I did say is that I am, quote, the only one on earth who is delivering the Father's message, which says that we are saved by Chana through Aman, not grace through faith. And people are going, oh, well, is he the only one on earth that the Father talks to? I'm the only one on earth who has obeyed the Father, his instructions, to tell people to stop saying we're saved by grace through faith, because that's not what he ever said. We are saved through Chana, through Aman. That's what the Father said. Well, what does that mean? Well, join with me and learn, Let me repeat what I said. No one is delivering the message that Abba Father Yahweh has been delivering through me, saying that the English words grace and faith are abominations that only add to and take away from the Father's original word. And that Chana and Aman, the Father's original words, give us the only truth that he wants us to understand. It's the only two words he spoke in his word. Why would anyone want to reject that? Well, because they get uncomfortable. I've been in grace and faith my whole life. What are you talking? I don't understand. You're confusing me. Go away. I hate you. The absolute truth, my friends, is that almost no one is delivering the true names of Yahweh and Yeshua on top of not delivering things like, how are we saved? It's through Chana, it's by Chana, and that comes through Aman? Can you please explain that so we can understand? On top of that, no one's delivering the true names of Yahweh and Yeshua. Oh, sure, some are using their names sometimes and often improperly because they don't know his word well enough to know the differences, but they are not teaching the true names at all. They're only sometimes verbalizing them, giving the impression that they support the Father's language. This is more like deception, my friends, and that falls into bearing false witness because they act as though they support the Father's language, but then they refuse to embrace it. Hello? Now, if you cannot see the truth in what I'm saying, you really need to watch last week's live stream a few more times. I mean, boy, did I peel that onion apart then. What I'm saying, I'm sure, is very bold and abrasive. And it was meant to be. It is meant to be. First, to get your attention. And second, to cause people to make a very important decision about their walk, if they have one, with Elohim. If you find my message to be irritating or upsetting in any way, I urge you, get on your knees and go to the Father about it before you join in any conversations of darkness that are going to be going on out there about it. If the Father's true language disturbs you, and or if the true meanings of the Father's words like Chana and Aman disturb you, you don't want to embrace them, you want to hold on to grace and faith, because Chana and Aman are not the same as the words you become used to and comfortable with, something is wrong. Turning to wars and rumors of wars, on Tuesday, May 29th, from the New York Times, dozens of mortars and rockets were fired Tuesday morning from Gaza into Israel in the most serious barrage since the end of the 2014 Gaza conflict. Islamic militants in Gaza attacked southern Israel with rockets and mortars, and Israel responded instantly with a wave of airstrikes across the militants' territory. Israel said there had been 70 rockets or mortars fired from Gaza throughout the day. The military wing of Hamas, the Islamic militant group that rules Gaza, claimed responsibility jointly with another faction known as the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Israel responded with airstrikes on 35 targets in Gaza after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel held Hamas responsible for the mortar attacks. Israel's Iron Dome anti-missile system intercepted dozens of incoming projectiles, according to the military. Then on Wednesday, May 30th, from Reuters, the Israel-Gaza border fell quiet on Wednesday under an Egyptian-brokered ceasefire after Tuesday's most intense flare-up. There were no reports of further fighting following attacks in the early hours of Wednesday, and both sides appeared to go back away from a slide toward a new war after weeks of violence along the border. An Israeli Arab official said that Egyptian mediation led to a ceasefire, but the terms of the understanding did not go beyond a restoration of calm by both sides. An agreement was reached to return to the 2014 ceasefire understandings in the Gaza Strip. Then on Thursday, May 31st, from the Times of Israel, the Israeli military released satellite images and details of the more than 65 targets it struck in Gaza in response to massive mortar and rocket attacks by terror groups from the coastal enclave on Tuesday and Wednesday. According to the Army, the satellite images show a Hamas drone storage facility, Hamas weapons manufacturing site, and a Hamas naval force base. The military said the Hamas naval force base that was targeted contained advanced unmanned submarine vessels capable of maritime infiltration and carrying out maritime terror attacks. The Gaza ruling Islamist terror group has also been suspected of possessing remote-controlled submarines for more than a year now. Then on Sunday, June 3rd, from the Times of Israel, Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted 3 rockets fired at Israel by terrorists in Gaza, with another landing in Israeli territory early on Sunday. Thousands of Israelis were sent rushing to bomb shelters throughout the night as warning sirens were repeatedly triggered. And, from Breitbart News, the Israeli military struck Hamas militant sites in Gaza early on Sunday in response to the resumption of rocket fire toward Israel, which threatened to unravel an informal ceasefire that had held since a flare-up of violence last week. Israel has also been battling fires caused by kites rigged with incendiary devices or attached to burning rags launched by Israeli Arabs in Gaza that have damaged forests and burned southern agricultural fields. The military said it hit 15 Hamas targets, including military compounds, munition factories, and naval forces. The strikes come after militants broke days of calm along the volatile frontier by firing projectiles toward Israeli communities. Israel's Iron Dome defense system intercepted some, and others landed inside Gaza. Sirens wailed in southern Israel overnight, warning of incoming rockets. No one was hurt on either side. Looking at our Intifada update on Tuesday, May 29th, from the national UAE, Israeli Arabs launched boats from Gaza in a protest against Israel's blockade, a move likely to further raise tensions after mortar fire from the enclave earlier in the day. One main boat carrying about 20 people, accompanied by a group of smaller boats, departed from the fishermen's port in Gaza City. There were conflicting statements about whether the boats would seek to break Israel's blockade, which currently allows them to travel 9 nautical miles, that's 16 kilometers, off the coast. Then on Saturday, June 2nd, from the Jerusalem Post, an Israeli Arab driving a tractor attempted to run over a group of IDF soldiers and then tried to attack Israeli civilians near the West Bank city of Hebron before he was shot and killed. On Sunday, June 3rd, from Ynet News, flaming kites from Gaza struck 5 points along Israel's border region, and a massive fire swept through the Shokita forest, site of an annual winter festival. Prime Minister Netanyahu is weighing a plan to allocate compensation taken from the Palestinian Authority funds for Israeli communities suffering damage from the kites. Israeli farmers from the region have announced their intention to sue the Hamas leadership for war crimes at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Then from Ynet News, Israeli Arabs from Gaza cut through the border fence on Sunday evening, setting ablaze a container of equipment used for the construction of an anti-tunnel barrier, and then returned to Gaza. Looking at our review of last week's news, the Islamist Hamas movement, which rules the Gaza Strip, is facing its worst crisis in years as it confronts a severe cash shortage, a loss of regional allies, and no obvious way to ease a blockade that is crippling local living conditions and stoking popular discontent. Dozens of mortars and rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel in the most serious barrage since the end of the 2014 Gaza conflict. The Israel-Gaza border fell quiet on Wednesday under Egyptian brokered ceasefire. The Israeli military released satellite images and details of the more than 65 targets it struck in Gaza in response to massive mortar and rocket attacks by terror groups from the coastal enclave on Tuesday and Wednesday. Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted 3 rockets fired at Israel by terrorists in Gaza, with another landing in Israeli territory. Getting busy. Israeli Arabs launched boats from Gaza in a protest against Israel's blockade. An Israeli Arab driving a tractor attempted to run over a group of IDF soldiers and then tried to attack Israeli civilians near the West Bank city of Hebron before he was shot and killed. Flaming kites from Gaza struck 5 points along Israel's border region, and a massive fire swept through the Shokita forest. And Israeli Arabs from Gaza cut through the border fence, setting ablaze a container of equipment used for the construction of an anti-tunnel barrier. And that, my friends, is what the LameStream Media is not telling you. Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. Until then, keep your wicks trimmed and keep your lamps ablaze. Shalom, my friends.
Crowded rooms, I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath a naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.